What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video on this Tuesday morning. Today I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers' injuries and how it seems like they were actually worse than what was originally reported. This video is powered by BetUS, the official sportsbook of the YouTube channel. Sign up using promo code YouTube150 and receive a 150% match deposit bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000. The Jets are 3.5-point favorites at home against Jacksonville. A huge game for those who care about draft positioning. The Jaguars won, which bumped the Jets down from the 6th pick to the 7th pick. If the Jets lose to Jacksonville, they will then rise up the draft board with a win. As we know, they will fall. If you're interested, sign up using promo code YouTube150 and get in on the action. So Jay Glazer of Fox Sports was speaking before the games this week about all different kinds of things, but he mentioned Aaron Rodgers and the injuries actually being worse than what we were originally led on to believe.
Rodgers going to finish the season?
Yeah, he is. Listen, his teammates want him to finish the season. Aaron Rodgers, what nobody knows is how many injuries he's been dealing with this whole season. There's been a grade 2 hamstring strain, which is really a tear, an MCL sprain, a high ankle sprain, and he's been fighting through a lot of that, and it raised him up a lot in the eyes of his teammates.
Honestly, I can't really say I'm all that surprised. It feels like and looked like that Rodgers was playing through injury for a majority of this season. Now, looking at the injuries that were listed off, like he starts by mentioning the grade 2 hamstring strain. That's essentially a moderate tear is what it's called. And it takes, quote, several weeks to heal. What that means obviously is going to vary from person to person, but this is not a, hey, you're okay immediately kind of thing. This is going to take you a couple of weeks to get to, feel like you're back to normal. The MCL sprain, which is in the knee, usually takes a few weeks to recover from also. It depends. He didn't really go into detail on what kind of MCL sprain it was, but a mild sprain is usually anywhere between 1 to 3 weeks, and a moderate sprain is 4 to 6 weeks. Lastly, high ankle sprain is about 6 to 8 weeks recovery time. So all these things on top of each other kind of, again, it makes sense why Rodgers hasn't necessarily looked right. And it also points to something that, I've pointed out throughout most of the season. He's playing like he doesn't want to take a hit, which is why the ball's coming out quick. He's not taking a ton of sacks, right? But there aren't very many long developing plays in this offense or deep shots down the field because Rodgers wants to get it out quickly. Now, there's a couple thoughts here. One, I don't doubt that right now this is the healthiest that Rodgers has been all year. He actually played a really good game against the Miami Dolphins. He looked good. And I also don't doubt that, the locker room appreciates the effort from him trying to get himself to play every week. A part of me still wishes, or not wishes, but wonders if things would have gone different if Aaron Rodgers sat down for a couple weeks to try to get healthy and what that would have done for the season. Because we know after the bye week, Rodgers comes out against Seattle. He didn't play a very good game, but it was, in the first half, he moved around a lot more and he looked significantly more mobile than he did for most of the year. And then again, he follows it up with his first 300-yard performance in almost 3 years and has a really nice game against the Miami Dolphins. Unfortunately, this, I think, adds more fuel to it might not be the best idea to bring Rodgers back. And the reason why, I think it's easy for people to go, oh, well, Rodgers hasn't been healthy this year. And when he was this past week, he looked good. And yeah, he did. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say Rodgers didn't look good. He did. He played a good game. I would say the defense and coaching was largely to blame for the loss against the Miami Dolphins. But unfortunately, this is the third straight year that an injury has played a major role in Aaron Rodgers' season. His last year in Green Bay, he played through the broken thumb, and that he didn't have a great year. It was 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns. We would have taken that, of course, at the time, but now the Jets defense is significantly worse than it was at the time, so they're not even benefiting from, the 20th best quarterback play in the league or, wherever he was that year. We know, unfortunately, last year he had the Achilles and that lost his season 4 plays into it. And now this year, he's been banged up since very early on in the season, since about week 4. And I just don't know if we're ever, especially now that he's 41 years old, I don't know if we ever see a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers ever again. And we did the video on it yesterday with Garrett Wilson being tired of losing and how I feel for the young guys on this team who that's all they've known. And I think just people are tired of them losing games. So yeah, Rodgers is trying to tough it out and fight through it. I'm sure there's, a portion of the locker room and maybe even the people who are just, sick and tired of it. They appreciate what he's trying to do. But at the same time, there's no arguing that there have been points this year where Aaron Rodgers playing through injury and the offense not being up to par has cost them games. And I think it's just everyone is tired of the losing games. And I get it for those who are going to say like a healthy Rodgers is what's best for this team going forward and going into next year. In a perfect world, you're probably right. But it goes back to one, I don't think he's ever going to be healthy again, fully healthy again, especially for a full season. And number two, is it worth it for the extra baggage that's, brought along? When they traded for him, I was on board with it because I thought there was a chance he could still be a top 12 quarterback in the league. And going into this year, I thought he'd be a top half of the league quarterback. And really at no point this year has he done that consistently. Again, I think this was probably his best game. Then the second half against the Texans and the game against New England, these have been the three standout offensive performances for me. And I just think if you look at the season overall, where he ranks in quarterback play is probably somewhere in the low 20s, like the 20th to 24th quarterback, depending on most weeks. And yes, it's better than what they have gotten in years gone by. But the point that I always go to bring up is if you can get comparable quarterback play for one, cheaper, and two, without the additional headache that goes along with Rodgers and having him here, it might be worthwhile just for that. And if you do bring him back next season, maybe the biggest reason, again, not to, is you're kicking the can of the dead money down the line an additional year and pushing it into 2026. And I think 2025 should be the year of transition. I don't think this has to be a completely tear it down. The Jets suck for 4 years before they're good again. There are pieces to this roster that are good. They need a good coaching staff and a new GM to supplement the roster. But I don't think it's crazy to say if the Jets win maybe one more game of the remaining four and they finish 4-13, I don't think it's crazy to say that they, with better coaching and a lateral step maybe at the quarterback, that they could win more than 4 games next year. I know people are really down on this team and are going to go, this is going to be a 3-win team again next year. I don't think that's the case. If they went with a bridge quarterback, we'll say Tyrod because he's the example. And I know he has injury problems, but Jordan Travis is here. Maybe they draft a quarterback at some point in the draft. There might be enough where you could be a feisty 7, 8, 9-win team. And then on top of that, you don't have the burden of in 2026 of the $60+ million in dead cap. You eat it in year one at $49 million when you have a cheap quarterback on the roster in Tyrod and Jordan Travis, and then you go forward that way. So again, I'm not surprised to see that the injuries were worse than originally reported, number one. And number two, I don't know if this really changes anything for me, honestly, because in a way, sure, it justifies why he was bad. But I don't know how you could then see a 41-year-old quarterback who's been hurt each of the last 3 years and go, I want to sign up for that again. That's just me. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I will catch you next time.